Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. We are excited that you're here. We're excited to be talking about this topic. It's something that we've been living and breathing for weeks, actually for months, as we prepared for the possibility of this happening. And I welcome you today, and I'm excited to have Marcy Little, my coworker, here with me today too. She's our content marketing manager, and she knows just a little bit about everything that we do. So I'm super excited to have her as my sidekick, and we look forward just to discussing the state of how things are at this point, a month or so out from the decision, the SCOTUS decision. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment to pray, and then we will dive right in. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the centers that are here represented, and just pray your mercy on them, God, and your abundant blessings. And I pray that this webinar would be a blessing and encouragement to them, and that they would take away things, God, that they can use in their centers for greater impact. I pray, God, that you would use us, that there would be no technical difficulties or anything that distracts. And we pray that this would bring glory to you. In your name we pray. Amen. I just want to begin by going over what we'll be covering. We're going to talk a lot about abortion tourism and what that means for your center, whether you live in a state that where abortion is legal or where abortion is now illegal or even in limbo. We're going to talk about complete abortion bans, abortion pill on demand, and just overall just highlight the life issue.
All right, so we want to start today by looking at just some different trends that we're seeing before we dive into specific strategies. These are going to be important for you to be aware of. You probably are aware of these at some level already and have been preparing for these, but we just wanted to hit these as highlights to know about and to be planning for and preparing for. So the first one we want to talk about is abortion pills at the mailbox. We used to be able to encourage women to come into our centers for an ultrasound way ahead of when she might schedule an abortion. And our timeline, as we've talked about before, has been crunched drastically because of the availability of the abortion pill. And now we have government agencies working against our efforts, which is unfortunate, as well as outside groups from outside the US who are pushing really hard for women to be able to get abortion pills delivered straight to their door. We know that this is dangerous, that there are reasons that women shouldn't do this, and we'll talk more a little bit later in our presentation today about specific strategies you can use to combat that. But just some things we wanted you to be aware of. Like I mentioned, different government agencies are at odds with our mission. HHS specifically has been looking into different ways that they can try to circumvent state laws that are going into effect. So if you're in a state that now bans abortion or is working to ban abortion, HHS is trying to find a way around that. And one of the things that they're saying is states shouldn't be allowed to ban something that the FDA has approved and has said is safe. Looking at some legal scholars and their kind of take on this, they think it's pretty weak and that it likely wouldn't stand up to courts and judge decisions, and that it could be challenged at the Supreme Court level, even if lower courts agree with their argument. So it's not something to be immediately concerned about, but more just to be aware of the different agencies at work and what they're trying to do to grant greater abortion pill access. There's been confusion about, can women get the abortion pill if they're in states that ban abortion? The answer is technically no. So if you are in one of those states that has banned abortion, women shouldn't be able to get them, although people are trying to work around that. But it is risky. Doctors in the US could stand to lose their licenses and face legal fees and penalties. Let's say a doctor in California tries to prescribe the abortion pill to a woman in Alabama. If he's caught doing that, there could be huge ramifications for that. So one of the more immediate risks that we see, though, is the risk of outside the US influence on women being able to get abortion pills. So one of the main groups is called Aid Access. I'm sure you guys all know about that, but they are run by a medical doctor who works with doctors in the US to prescribe abortion pills for women who've had telehealth appointments with her and with her organization, and mail those pills. But it doesn't work. She won't do that if, like for our scenario earlier, where it's the California abortionist prescribing pills for a woman in Alabama. So in those cases, she would make the prescription herself and have those fulfilled by a pharmacy in Europe. There are just challenges with this. And again, we'll talk about specific strategies and tactics you can use to help let women know why this is such a health risk for them. But it can take 10 to 20 days for those pills to arrive, which we know means that for a lot of women, they will arrive too late for them to safely take. But just as one additional data point, that aid access group claims that they went from receiving 600 to 700 emails per day from women in the US to over 4,000 emails per day since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So this is top of mind for women in your state, regardless of the kind of state you're in, and is one of the challenges and trends that we're seeing today.
I also read somewhere that there was like 350,000 searches for abortion pill online the week after the SCOTUS decision. So, and we know that you're seeing that in your centers. We know that's a lot of your phone calls, people wanting that information. So we will for sure talk more about it throughout the webinar. The other thing that we have been preparing for and reading about and studying is the pop-up and mobile abortion clinics. Some of these started in the midst of COVID. I knew about them first in the Midwest and Minnesota. JustThePill.com started some mobile clinics that would go around and deliver pills to people in the height of the pandemic. And as they saw the SCOTUS decision looming, they developed a plan very, very similar to the mobile units that pregnancy centers are using, where they want to raise money and send fleets of mobile units to states that are legal, but they would have a mobile unit sit near the border of states that are illegal and provide abortions to them. So it's easier access for them. We know that they're operating here in Colorado, where I live, and they're claiming to do both surgical abortions and delivering the pill. They're discrete vans that have no markings whatsoever for the safety of the women on them, they say. And their goal is to build 30 mobile units in the next year or so, or as they have the funding. So this is something just to watch for in your area. If you hear about the mobile abortion clinics, that's definitely competition for you. So something to be aware of. We also want to talk about the greater need for resources. I know we've all heard the narrative that says that we're all pro-birth and we're not pro-life. And centers are doing a job just with doing this with excellence, providing resources for women who need them in the midst of their unexpected pregnancy. But we're seeing definitely a need for centers to really be ready for these women. And especially, there's one thing that we've talked about internally is the number of centers who are not yet medical. That's something, if you have considered it and it's something that's kind of in your horizon, we cannot encourage you enough, because part of our marketing strategies are really to, especially with the abortion pill, are really to encourage women to seek an ultrasound before they make any decision. And so we just encourage you to both be ready with medical services and then with the resources that women need for long after their baby is born. This is a time too where you're going to see increased donor attention. It's a time that they want to be informed, and they're looking at you as a resource for all things pro-life, even if you've maintained kind of staying away from the political side of things. Your donors want to know what's going on. It's also a good time to be over communicating with them. We know the narrative out there is that abortion is going to be illegal everywhere. And then we hear centers say that their donors wonder, do you need pregnancy centers anymore? And so you really want to be communicating that you are needed now more than ever before. And so it's a great time to have that monthly newsletter going and to really use that to get the attention of your donors and inform them about what's going on.
Yep. And then the last trend that we're seeing, and we know you all are very aware of, is just the increased opposition from different abortion groups and different advocacy groups for abortion. The one that's top of mind for everyone right now is Jane's Revenge. We've done a special webinar and e-blast about that. So if you're curious, some of our responses to that, you can get access to this once this is over. Just reach out to us. We're happy to send you that information, but have encouraged you to be wise and be smart and prayerful in the way that you address these opposition groups, increasing your security, letting your donors know about what's going on, but to also keep your doors open as much as possible, because Jane's Revenge already knows who you are. So you're not going to be hiding from them, but the women in your community still need to know who you are and where you are and the kind of support you can provide. The other type of opposition we're seeing cropping up is related to fake reviews that are coming in. This is not a new tactic, but it is on the rise again. We see this kind of ebb and flow throughout the years. When different groups decide that they want to pose this attack again. So we are seeing an increase in that now, and we'll be talking through specific strategies for how you can respond to that if you become a target of those fake clinic reviews that are coming in. All right, so the next big question, will centers need to adjust their marketing strategies? Our answer is a resounding yes. Some centers have questioned, if I'm in a state where nothing really changes, do I really need to change my strategies that much? The answer is yes, because of one thing that we're gonna talk about next, which is abortion tourism. So there's kind of three main categories we can talk through when we think about abortion tourism, and we'll walk through each of these. One thing I want to just preface this discussion with is just reiterating and reminding us all that abortion tourism is not new. It was happening before Roe v. Wade. Women were flooding into states like New York and Colorado, which were some of the early states to legalize abortion ahead of the Roe v. Wade decision. And so it's not new, even though we haven't had to deal with it as much, but it has been on the rise. So Laura and I both live in Colorado. We're in one of the states that is a top, sadly, abortion tourism destination state. So during COVID, as an example, when Governor Abbott down in Texas banned abortions temporarily in the early days, we saw an increase of women coming here for their abortions. And then last fall, when Texas passed their Texas Heartbeat Act, there were the Rocky Mountain Planned Parenthood affiliation was boasting at some of their clinics a 520% increase in the number of women coming into the state from Texas as a result of that decision. So we know it happens. So even if you're in a state like Colorado and you think your marketing strategies don't have to change because nothing changed here, they should. So let's start there. If you are in an abortion tourism destination state, so a state where women are now going to be coming because abortion is restricted in their area, there are a few things you can do. Make sure that you're highlighting that you offer free services, especially ultrasound, if that's a service that you provide, or if you offer referrals for that. And just emphasize the safety factor of an ultrasound, that before you go get an abortion, women have already paid a lot of money to travel to the state to book their abortion appointments, especially if it's a little bit later in pregnancy, because they were trying to figure out what their options were. And ultrasound is so important. So stress the importance of that. You can also use pre-termination language. I know some pregnancy centers are not comfortable with this, but you can add all kinds of disclaimers that we don't perform abortions, nor do we refer for abortions, but there are important pre-abortion screenings that you should take advantage of, ultrasound being one of those. If you offer STD, STI testing, that's another really important pre-abortion screening, as we know that women need. So those are some SEO, social media, specific messaging strategies that you can use, as well as geofencing can be a good strategy. So targeting either different abortion clinics or different entry points, things like that. We can work with you on the best geofencing strategies for for your area. So that's if you are a destination state. Every time I say that, I just hate saying it because Colorado especially should be a destination state for so many other things. But let's shift into if you live in a state where women are going to be leaving to try to get their abortions elsewhere. So abortion is banned. The first thing you need to do is be aware of which states are closest to you that are going to offer abortion. Just so you're aware and you can utilize that in some of your paid search strategies, which Laura will cover later. You also want to emphasize the importance of ultrasounds. And I know we've gotten some questions from several of you lately saying, okay, but women in our states are not going to want to get ultrasounds, especially if abortion is not totally banned in your state, but let's say you have a 6-week heartbeat ban or an 8-week ban or even 15, like down in Florida. You're letting us know women don't want to have ultrasounds because that's going to date their pregnancy and determine whether or not they're able to have an abortion in state. And so you are going to want to message that a little differently. And this is where you really want to highlight the safety aspects, that it is very dangerous for a woman's health and safety if she gets an abortion, especially the abortion pill, too late. And so even if that means she feels like she needs to travel out of state afterwards, we really need to keep stressing the importance of ultrasound in our Google My Business posts, blog posts, website copy, anywhere you're talking about ultrasound, just highlighting that's the safety aspect of that. Another thing you're going to want to do is collaborate with other pregnancy centers for greater impact. Laura's going to touch on this a little bit more later when we talk about paid advertising and paid search. But this is really important just to know what other centers in your area are doing, what other centers around your state are doing, and you can collaborate on some of the common messages that you want to use. And then the last thing you'll want to do is accumulate resources and prepare support programs. So this is a great time to beef up your referral programs. If you don't offer as many services at your pregnancy center, know what other resources are available in your community that you can refer out to for women who need that extra care and support. And then if you're in a state that is uncertain, so maybe you have a pre-Roe abortion ban on the books, but your attorney general or governor is refusing to enforce that. And so you're kind of waiting to see what happens during the election season or just waiting on ballot initiative information. You'll want to stay on top of legal changes that are happening in your state. You don't need to become the legal expert or hire someone full-time on staff to track that, but partner with other groups in your state. Reach out to groups like Susan B. Anthony List and others that already are following that and see what information they're willing to share with you about what is going on in your state. If you Google and look at 5 different articles, you'll probably get 5 different answers about what's available in your state right now, which can be confusing, but make sure that you have some way of tracking that. Again, you want to emphasize the need for ultrasound. And if you aren't medical, making sure you have a good referral program for that, or reaching out to your donors and saying, hey, going medical is something that would really help us reach the abortion-minded women in our area, and seeing what they can do to help with that. And then just in general, regardless of what kind of state you live in, you do want to keep your donors updated regularly. They are probably confused about what's going on in your state. Some may even assume, because this is a popular talking point in media right now, that abortion is just automatically restricted. And so if you're in a state like Colorado, New York, California, any of those main culprits that we always hear about, you want to communicate with your donors the reality of not only have things not changed, but they're getting worse because more women are coming into our state. And so it's a great opportunity to keep your donors aware and engaged with what you're doing, as well as raise any additional funds that you need. Conversely, if you're in a state where your donors know abortion is banned, what need do we have for pregnancy centers now? That's a question that you need to be answering regularly in your email communication and on social media for your donors, is letting them know how important and crucial your work still is in your state, even if abortion is restricted or banned, so that they can come alongside and support you.
Abortion pill reversal is something that we get asked about all the time. How do you market abortion pill reversal? Because it is a challenge, and we know that. Google does not see it as a legitimate medical procedure. And so that's part of what is a challenge. But especially now, as we see the increase in searches for abortion pills, we know that we need to be the voice for abortion pill reversal. And so we have a few ideas for you of how you can incorporate it into your marketing strategies. You want to advertise it, but you have to be really strategic. So one of the things that we say, start with your website. Make sure you're mentioning it on your website. I know a lot of centers that we work with have added a page to their website about it. Also, we always encourage you to add a blog to your website if you haven't done that yet. That's a super great goal for midway through 2022. But make sure that you're blogging about abortion pill reversal as well, and anything related to the abortion pill. A blog is such a great way to capture somebody's search and give them the information that they need to bring them into your center. So we definitely recommend blogging. If you are close to an abortion clinic that offers the abortion pill, make sure you have signage somewhere or something outside that tells that you offer abortion pill reversal. I know people have asked us about doing billboards and things like that. Anything that can let people know that you have those services. We have had some success with paid search. I know a lot of centers that talk to us and seek information out about marketing have asked us about that. We've been able to find workarounds with the APR and paid search. It's challenging. And so we encourage you to use your favorite marketing agency to help you with that. And we'd love to help you if you don't have one. But please feel free to reach out to us to ask more about that. But we are doing it for a few centers in the country. Also, just knowing that that the searches are increasing, and knowing, so if you don't offer abortion pill reversal too, knowing who does, that kind of taps into what Marcy was just saying in terms of collaborating with other centers. Making sure that you're able to refer if somebody calls you is super important as well. And consider strategically where you would advertise, especially if you're near an abortion clinic or near a major highway. I forgot to address that before. That would be a great place to do some outdoor advertising as well. We see it coming that you might not be able to use words like abortion pill reversal without getting flagged. And so be ready to think creatively in the things that you put out there in any of the marketing strategies that I just mentioned. So you may have to say something like, if you've taken the pill already and you regret it, please contact us. So start thinking about other ways that you can talk about the abortion pill reversal without actually using the language, because we know all of you are experiencing who do any online marketing, just issues with getting some of your ads pushed out and things like that. So be ready to consider workarounds for the language that you're using. I also wanted to say, if you have questions, feel free to ask. I forgot to say that at the beginning, and this is recorded, and so we will be sending this out tomorrow. If you want this information at a later date, you'll get it in your email. So now we want to move into more strategic tactics for centers. And we're first going to talk through social media marketing. I'm sure you guys have experienced the challenges that have come in the last few weeks. And when centers ask us about us, we say, ironically, it is since the even the leak, but with the SCOTUS decision. And so we hope that we can help you with some of these ideas that we have today.
Yeah, so I want to talk about specific changes and things that you can do to increase awareness through social media. We know that that is one of the great uses of social media is just to increase your awareness in the community. It's a word of mouth accelerator. And so it's at the very top of the funnel. So it's helpful to think about social media as a way to let people know about who you are. You're not likely to get a ton of conversions through social media, but one of the main reasons we encourage it is because of social proof. So what is social proof? Younger millennials, maybe even older millennials, I kind of put myself in this category, and Gen Z especially, want to know more about the company or the nonprofit that they're considering reaching out to before they actually make that point of contact. So here's kind of how a flow might work and how someone might kind of check you out before they ever pick up the phone or fill out your contact form online. Let's say a Gen Z or millennial is searching for abortion information. You have great SEO, so you capture their search online. They see your Google My Business listing because that's all optimized and ready to go. And they think, okay, but I want to see like more about like the personality of this center and see like if they are legit. So this is true even for Gen Z, even though they don't create content on Facebook, they still use Facebook. It's like the common denominator social media platform that everyone's on, even if they don't engage with it and use it the same way. So after seeing your listing on Google, they're either going to hop onto Facebook or Instagram to see more about who you are. This is what's referred to as social proof. They want to know before they make the call or before they fill out the contact form. And so if you have a profile, but there's not really much going on, or you don't have a profile, in their minds, in our minds, it looks like you're not really a legitimate organization. So we recommend, if you're able to do Facebook and Instagram, at least to have somewhat of a presence there, to have your about information filled out, to be posting somewhat regularly, just to show life at your pregnancy center and that you're legitimate. Gen Z especially looks for activity on a page or a profile to indicate your credibility. And so we recommend posting, if you're able to, 3 to 4 times a week. If you're not and you can only do once a week, that is better than nothing. So that's encouraged as well. But the more you're posting, the more you're showing engagement and just life at your center, that we care, that we're here. We also recommend, and this is a shift post-Roe that we're seeing, is just focusing more on service-related posts. Gen Z especially likes, they either want to be entertained or they want to be educated. So if you are really entertaining and you've got that great personality and you're on TikTok and you're doing all those things, that's awesome. If that feels very overwhelming to you to think about how to be entertaining as a pregnancy center, you can focus on your services and what you do for women in your community, and that will fulfill that education category that Gen Z is looking for. So it doesn't always have to be, we offer free ultrasounds, come in and get this. It could be things like, hey, before you hit purchase on your online order of the abortion pill, did you know? And then you can share some information about the abortion pill. So be creative. You are an expert in what you do. And so sharing some of that expertise throughout your social media posts is a really great way to increase your credibility and increase awareness of your center. A few other things to keep in mind, especially if you're on Instagram, but if you're on Facebook, is using Reels to reach a wider audience. Instagram, especially from its beginning, has always liked when users and content creators on their platform utilize every aspect of what they offer. Reels has been around for a couple of years now. They've increased the length. So it used to just be, they could only be 15-second videos. And then shortly after that, it was 30. Now they can be up to 60 seconds. But these are kind of those looping videos that you see if you're on Instagram, and they get shared to Facebook as well. But we have seen for pregnancy centers a huge increase in reach when you're posting Reels to your social media. So we are starting to produce a lot more Reels that you'll see through Choose Life promo here in the coming weeks. If that's something that we can help you with, we would love to do that. We also encourage you to use local location tags and hashtags in your posts. So spend some time, or have an intern or a volunteer spend some time looking into what are the relevant hashtags for what you offer, as well as what's relevant for your location, and start using those in your posts. We have some resources on our website about best practices related to hashtags, if that's something you're interested in learning more about. And then the last thing is you want to add the links to your social media profiles to your website. Again, is an easy way, if someone is checking out your website, for them to go ahead and check you out on social media as well. A few pointers and things that we, based on things that we're seeing recently, I mentioned the fake review campaigns that are happening, but you want to monitor your social media for opposition. So there are a few things you can do as reviews and comments start coming in. You can just tell they're fake. They've never been to your center before. If people are leaving comments, you can delete them. It's your page, it's your space. You don't have to tolerate that or allow people to, especially if they're slanderous comments, you don't have to allow that in your space. You can also add content moderations. You can set those in your Facebook settings for specific words and phrases like fake clinic. So if you're seeing a lot of comments come through and there are certain phrases that people are using and they're just always negative, you can actually change your settings so that those get filtered out and they never get added. And then the last thing you can do is if you start seeing an increase, or especially if you're seeing a lot of reviews come through in Google My Business, if those are open for you, then you can turn off your Facebook reviews and post from visitors. So that's a setting that we do encourage, especially right now, especially before you become a target of this kind of campaign. Facebook is pretty iffy on whether they remove reviews, even if you can prove that they're fake. So we recommend just turning that off. If you sense an attack coming or get wind of a specific attack in your area, or just if you're seeing an increase in the number of comments and things like that, just go ahead and turn it off for a while. You can turn it back on at any time. And then the other type of comment we're seeing, interestingly enough, is from pro-life supporters who might be a little confused about what you are doing. So especially if you are posting about abortion, that can be confusing for supporters sometimes. So they might mistake you for an abortion clinic. You can respond to these if you want. We also just recommend deleting them so that they don't cause more confusion for people. And then if you want to, you can always reach out privately to the people who are commenting to just clarify your mission. We don't recommend clarifying that publicly just because that could be a turnoff for the abortion-minded women that you're trying to reach. If you're trying to defend your pro-life position in that space, we just don't recommend doing that publicly. So reaching out via Facebook Messenger is a good way to kind of handle that.
And we can't stress enough, we always have to say it in every webinar, have separate pages for clients and for supporters. So I know it's a lot. I know it's more to add to your plate, but so many centers say, do I have to have an Instagram and Facebook? And for sure, you want to have an Instagram for those Gen Zers. You want to have your client Facebook page for the social proof that Marcy just talked about. And then you want everything else as for sure a separate Facebook page for donors, because there's just such different messaging that you use and totally different audiences. So especially now in the just the climate that we're in, we just cannot recommend enough that you would have two separate pages, one for donors, one for clients. And then paid search. This is a question we get asked about a lot. I know that a lot of centers feel like they for sure should be doing it. And in a lot of cases, we say, yes, you should for sure be doing it. There's certain instances where you don't need to be doing paid search. If you're not in an area where there's a lot of competition in a rural area, there are different strategies that you can use instead of paid search, but a lot of centers use paid search. We manage a lot of Google Ads for clients. And so we for sure wanted to address it today. We encourage you to invest in paid search if you're in a community that where you have a large population and we know they're online searching for abortion. We just cannot stress enough how it's so important for you to be online, have that digital presence, because we know that women get right on their phone the second that they even speculate that they might be pregnant, and we want them to find you instead. So paid search, as most of you know, are the ads at the top of the page that are just content. There's no images. And this has changed a bit with the SCOTUS decision. If you live in a state where abortion is still legal, we want you to keep doing what you were doing, but also make sure that you're bidding on keywords related to the nearest abortion spot. So we also encourage you to collaborate with other centers to prevent high costs. So we've had some centers in Minneapolis that shared about how they were doing this, just working together, knowing that you all have different budgets to offer when it comes to Google advertising. And if you have a smaller budget, you want to make sure that you are communicating and collaborating with centers with larger budgets so they can refer to you. If you happen to run out of budget and your ads aren't being shown, by a certain time of the day or whatever. So we cannot stress enough how important it is to work together with a paid search strategy. We don't recommend, and we talked about this a little before in our last email and somewhat in our webinar, doing a collaborative effort with a bunch of centers in one paid search effort. What that does is we know that the other side has just a lot of money that they're working with, and they can win every time if they really want to invest that money. And so we see centers wanting to work together to have, like one space and try to get to the top. But we like it better when there's different centers working together and they have the 3 spaces at the top, if possible, to advertise their life-affirming services, because we know that an abortion clinic or the abortionpill.com could come right in and just spend a lot more money in their ads, and you would be invisible, and we don't want you to be invisible. If abortion is banned in your state, we recommend geofencing to capture the attention of those who are visiting abortion clinic websites. We also recommend that you make sure that in your strategies for both, actually, that you're using keywords so Marcy said we live in Colorado. So the states surrounding us, we would want to make sure that they're using words like abortion Colorado, because that's where women are going to start searching, knowing they can't get an abortion in their state, but they can go a state or 2 over. So we want to make sure that you're using those same kind of keywords in your marketing. And just be aware, this is going to change. We know it's going to change, especially there's a number of states out there still trying to decide what they're going to be doing about abortion. So just have an awareness of the keywords that you want to be using. One thing that happened a couple of weeks ago too, and we sent an email about it this week, is the label that came out in 2019 to indicate whether you provide abortions or not. It used to be more hidden below the content of the ad, where it says does not perform abortions or does perform abortions. About 2 weeks ago, they moved that label, and it's likely as a result of the pressure that Google's getting from all over to not allow pregnancy centers to advertise, but your legitimate paying clients. And so we've seen Google try to walk that fine line. And one thing we noticed is they moved the label to the top of the ad. We don't think that this will impact your paid search campaigns, but we are definitely watching it. We're going to just watch the data over the next month or 2 and see if we see any kind of a decrease that's related to that. One thing we noticed is that label is also on sites like abortionfinder.com, and it says that they don't perform abortions. So, who knows what will happen in the end and how this will play out, if that will get moved around again. Marcy, do you have anything else to add about paid search?
Nope.
Okay.
You covered it. Let's move on to search engine optimization, SEO. This is something my team here at the agency gets to work a lot on, as well as our digital team. So I love talking about it and love sharing what we can with you on how to increase your search engine optimization, because it's so important. This is how women find you when they're searching for different keywords or phrases or questions in Google, like the one you see on this slide. As an example, is abortion legal in Ohio? Nobody knows anymore what's legal or what's not as a result of Roe and all of the press surrounding it. So let's talk through some best practices and strategies you can use to increase your search engine optimization as your pregnancy center. So the first is to acknowledge the current situation in your state, optimize your site, put content up for searches like this one, is abortion legal in Ohio? Obviously insert your own state, but a great way to do this is to add blogs to your website. Google is constantly looking for new content to crawl. That's Google's technical term, but new content to scan on your website. So blogs are an excellent way to add new content that Google can scan. The other thing you want to do is stress the importance of ultrasounds in your blogs. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but even if you're in a state with early abortion bans, this is really important. One thing that I'll add is you should acknowledge the concerns in women that women feel in your blogs about this, and in your writing about ultrasounds. Acknowledge the fact that, hey, you might be nervous to get an ultrasound because that dates your pregnancy, and that's related to whether or not you can get an abortion. But here are all the health concerns related to not getting an ultrasound, and it's really why you still need to come in and receive that important service. Blog about questions abortion-minded women are asking, not just about the legality of abortion in your state, but will I still be able to receive the health care I need? Write about ectopic pregnancies, about care after miscarriage, all of those things. Anything you're hearing rumbling in the news that you think, oh yeah, I bet my clients are asking that question too, or I bet my clients are concerned about that, not only is going to help your search engine optimization, just in terms of the content that Google can crawl and scan, but also increase your credibility, and you're establishing yourself as that medical authority in your community, which also has an impact on your site's authority, which impacts SEO. So it's all related to SEO. You want to post weekly on Google My Business. We have a number of resources on our website related to how to set up and optimize your Google My Business profile. This is how women find you if they're doing near me searches. A lot of times women just open up their Google Maps app and search for resources near them. And so if your Google My Business is optimized and they're in your area, this is a great way to reach her. You want to remember to maintain a neutral medical professional tone in your writing, especially for your blogs. This is really going to help, again, if your goal is to reach the abortion-minded or abortion-determined woman. They need to know that you're a trusted resource, that you know what you're talking about. So checking your information against websites like the Mayo Clinic or the FDA, especially if you're writing about the abortion pill, but then also citing those websites, again, helps establish your authority on your website and your credibility, but also establishes, hey, we're citing these sources that are credible. I know we have questions about Google My Business specifically and changes that are happening there. So I did want to address that while we're talking about SEO. So Google has turned off reviews for a lot of Google My Business profiles, but they've done it for abortion clinics as well. So it doesn't appear to be just targeted to pregnancy centers. It's kind of happening across the board. Our suspicion is Google's trying to figure out what to do. And we saw this, like Laura mentioned, during COVID, the beginning days of COVID and things like that. So it's not unprecedented. It is something that we're monitoring and trying to get answers for. But just know that that's happening. It's the silver lining is it is good. You don't have to worry about the fake clinic reviews right now as much if people are not able to leave those reviews on your Google My Business listing. The other thing that we are aware of and trying to get answers from Google on is you may have received notifications that some of your posts have been removed from Google My Business for violating their guidelines or some other sort of violation. We have been able to open some support tickets for specific posts with some of our clients we work with and get those manually reviewed and pushed through. So we don't know if it's something internal at Google, like different employees are more friendly to our work than others, but we have been able to get that resolved for a number of clients and also have open communication and support tickets with Google to try to get that resolved. If you don't work with us for your SEO or your Google My Business, and you notice that your posts are getting removed, we recommend opening a support ticket, reaching out to Google, and trying to get answers from them. We're able to offer that as help to our clients because we are a Google partner. So we're able to try to get those answers to you more quickly. But we are monitoring both of those, and just want you to be aware of that. It's frustrating, but we don't want it to cause you to stop trying at all with Google My Business because it is such a powerful free tool that it's such a good thing to try to use. So reach out to us if you have questions or need support with that. We're happy to answer whatever questions we can. So that's a little bit about SEO. Much more could be said, and we have I keep saying this, but we do have resources on all of these things on our website if you want to check those out and get more specific strategies related to SEO specifically.
Awesome. And we also want you to remember that your donors are super important in the midst of this. And I know that you're steeped in this on a daily basis, and you're trying to keep track of what's going on in our state, what's going on in our community, and serving clients and all the things that you need to do. But donors aren't steeped in it as much as we are. And so I said this earlier, just make sure you're communicating updates on what is going on in your state. Make sure you're communicating that there's still a need for your services and that it's greater than ever before. Any kind of updates in the news, those are so good to communicate. And if you have things specific to your state, make sure your donors know about it. I think of New York, your centers are under attack at every level of government, it seems. And they're trying to regulate the centers in New York, and they're trying to block them from being able to advertise on Google, and let your donors know this battle that you're facing. It's great for them to know. It helps them feel like they're a part of what you're doing and helping you whenever they give to you. And so it's also a great way to ask for prayer. And we know that that is so key right now, just for your protection and for provision in these uncertain times. But also in this, as we engage in this, it's a fight, it's a battle for life. And make sure you're sharing prayer requests as well. So as you face new things, or if your center, is under pressure from somewhere, or even if you're in a state like Wyoming where, abortion is illegal now, let them know how you're responding to that, how you're prepared to help more women, how you're prepared to reach those who are going to be traveling into other states. So over communication is not a bad thing. And if you don't have a regular email that goes out, this would be a time to start it. So you want to start a blog, you want to be doing your Google My Business, and you want to be doing a monthly email to your donors so you can let them know just highlights of what's going on in your ministry, stories that you can share, lives impacted. Super important right now with all that's going on in this space. And never hesitate to ask for donations. Never feel like you've asked too much. You are simply a vessel the Lord is using to connect a donor that has a passion for the life issue, so that they can use the resources God has given them to help you and help women. So make sure you ask for what you need, and then make sure you always communicate after how those donations have helped. So I know that we talked a lot in the last month about increasing your security and the things that you need to do just to do basic security things like cameras and all of that. If you implemented that and that was a gift from a donor, make sure that you communicate even things like that, like, thank you for the cameras. We feel so much safer. We feel our staff and our clients are safer. Super important right now. And then also never forget to encourage them with client stories. That's why they support you. The lives changed in the work that you're doing. And it's a way that they can directly partner in this life to help women and help their unborn children to choose life and a hopeful future. So make sure that you're communicating with them. And kind of just to piggyback on that, you are in the spotlight. This is a time that you have to gain more community awareness, whether It might be out of a negative thing if your center was attacked or something, or just if your center is brought to light because somebody wanted to do a news story to talk about this whole abortion issue. Make sure that you are responding in a way that lets people know about the services that you provide, about how you help women. Make sure you're advertising your services that are available to the community, and just know that you are looked at as the authority from the life standpoint. And so use your voice, and this time where people are going to highlight you more to let people know what you're doing to change lives right there where you live. This is a great time to be growing your donor database as well. So people are going to be searching. We see it. We have seen it as we've done reporting calls with our clients in the last week or so. As we look back over the last month, we've definitely seen a spike in searches and things like that. And it's not just women searching, it's donors searching because they want to know how they can help and how they can get involved, because this has really ignited people's passion to do something. And so use that. Make sure you're collecting people's contact information, especially their emails, because those can be used, not just for your monthly newsletters, but they can be used in Facebook to grow your database there. There's lots of different ways, and to let them know about your events, so many ways. So make sure that you're gathering donor information and focus on growing that donor database.
Yep. People are looking for ways to be involved, and you have ways for them to be involved. So make sure you let them know that, especially while this is such an issue that they're being faced with every day.
So we have a lot of questions, it looks like.
Yeah. I've been answering some as we go through, just typing quick answers, so we can run through the rest of these now and chat through some of these. Another great resource for you, if we've mentioned a specific resource that we have on our website and you would like a link for that, if you send us an email, info@chooselifemarketing.com, we can reach out to you and get you that resource and answer specific questions that way as well. So we can run through some of these questions. Laura, I can just read them off and we can kind of tag team and answer that way, if that sounds good.
Sure.
One of our first questions that came through was, with the president recently signing an order to have the Department of Health helping to make the abortion pill more available, do we know if that will include our local health departments? I think that's probably a way they would try to do that, is to work with health departments, but that wouldn't be able to supersede state laws restricting abortion. So if you're in one of those states where abortion is banned, the departments can't go around that. Your health departments have to follow whatever your state laws are. So it would kind of depend on what state you're in. And again, even with some of the HHS like recommendations and things that they're trying to do now, legal experts are just kind of on the fence about whether that is actually going to work. So we'll continue to watch that, encourage you to continue to watch that, especially if you're in a state that still allows abortion, and monitor that. I don't know if you have more to add to that, Laura.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking as well.
Awesome. The next question is, how can we find out about pop-up and mobile abortion clinics in our area? And if you do have questions, if you'll please use the Q&A function, you can just type your question in there and then we'll read it and be able to answer it. So sorry, that question was, how can we find out about pop-up and mobile abortion clinics in our areas?
From what I read, it's through the Just the Pill websites or the abortion pill websites. They seem to be extraordinarily discreet. Tamara, I know you asked that, and you're here in Colorado as well. They say that their vans have zero, don't have windows, and they don't have any kind of writing or anything that identifies them. And so I think you find them through their websites.
Yeah.
Another thing we didn't mention that Marcy and I were talking about this morning, because this came out yesterday in the news, is the abortion. There's a couple of senators that are trying to push doing abortions on federal lands. And so we were trying to research. It doesn't look like it could really happen, just if you look at the legalities of it. But they were pushing for it in parks, or like national parks, or like using VA hospitals. And so there's just so many legal issues that come with that. So even the president was saying, that's not a good idea. But who knows? We know that they persevere in their ideas. But it was just something that's been thrown out. I don't see that there's any kind of steps or protocol or anything that they've established yet.
Yep. The next question is, where would you recommend looking for up-to-date legal info? The Susan B. Anthony list is a great resource for that. If you reach out to them, they're monitoring state laws, and especially states with challenges coming up, whether that's an abortion ban not being enforced, or even things that are impacted, like the Attorney General and Governor up for re-election this year, and that could shift things. So that's a great resource. Any local, if you have state level, like Family Policy Alliance type groups, they likely are following the legal side of those as well.
I just call Mercy because she always knows stuff.
I do follow it for states like Colorado since I live here, but it's also pretty easy to follow it for Colorado. All right. And then can you share more examples of how to advertise abortion pill reversal?
I think just the biggest pieces for this is make sure you have information about it on your website. I know that some centers even put some kind of a button on their homepage. A lot of centers don't feel comfortable doing that because if an abortion-minded woman comes across their website, they don't want them to necessarily find abortion pill reversal information first. But make sure it's on your website. Make sure that you're writing about it in blogs a lot, like both the abortion pill and abortion pill reversal. And then again, I know that centers that are right across the street from abortion clinics who provide the pill, and they make sure that they have signage everywhere. There's even one, I think, that has like a TV screen, and they run ads that say that they, if you regret your abortion, come over to them. So, Marcy, do you have any other suggestions on?
Yeah. Kind of piggybacking off of that, we got another question asking, do we really want to advertise for abortion pill reversal if we're trying to reach the abortion-minded woman? And our answer to that still is yes. Because of some of what Laura was saying, you want information about both on your website. And I think what it comes down to is how you talk about abortion pill reversal. So you still don't want to come across as overtly pro-life. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you want to maintain that neutral tone. And so you're really just offering it as an option. So you can reference studies where women struggle with regret over their decision, they suffer mental health consequences. And so even acknowledging, like, if you've taken the first pill and this is a concern of yours, you're experiencing regret, this is something that we offer or we can refer you for. So you're not promoting it as you've had an abortion and you realize it's wrong or something like that. You don't want to take that approach. You really want to offer it as this could be an option for you. It has a fairly high success rate. It doesn't mean that it's going to be successful for every woman who tries it, but this is an option if it's something you regret. So that's how I would add to it.
And social media is not an option. I don't know that I addressed that super well earlier. You just get constantly flagged when you try to do posts on abortion pill reversal. So we don't recommend trying on social media.
Yeah. Another question that came in about having separate Facebook pages, won't patients see both? This is a great question. And so we do still recommend having a separate page for your donors versus your clients. You can name them different things. It can be something as simple as friends of your pregnancy center name, or it can be a totally different, you could kind of have it branded as a totally different organization name, just someplace where you can direct donors to see information. There is always the possibility that your clients, your patients would see that donor page. And so we just still recommend caution, recognizing this is a public page. People will be able to find it. If you're using creative different names, the likelihood of that is less. And you also want to keep in mind HIPAA compliance issues. So if you're sharing a story, make sure that you are identifying details about that story, and that you mention that you've changed those identifying details. We also recommend keeping updates like that, like clients that you've seen or encouraging client stories, Sometimes a better place for that is an email update to your donors. So a donor Facebook page could focus more on, we've served this many women in the last week, or we have this many appointments. Will you please pray for them? Things like that, or even volunteer needs that you have or donation needs that you have, sharing those types of things, and then reserving your stories and other updates like that that are very like pro-life, sharing your pro-life mission for email campaigns for your donors.
Mm-hmm. Someone asked about what ideas have others used in Reels. Mm-hmm. I know you can do things like talk about pregnancy symptoms, give dating tips, talk about healthy relationships. You could talk about pregnancy tests, types of pregnancy tests. Marcy, do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, anything that's kind of a related issue. So it can be pregnancy related, it could be mental health related. That's huge right now. It could just be physical health topics. You can look at different like month themes that are coming up. So September is coming up, and we actually are we've produced a reel that's coming out soon about National Suicide Prevention and awareness, since that's in September. So thinking about things that are trending topics that are in related areas to you can be really good to use for your reels, since you can produce evergreen reels, and we encourage that. And we are producing evergreen reels for you to use, but any that are topical for trending topics are great to hit on as well.
We have a website, Choose Life Promo, and that's where all of our videos and such are posted. And we do have reels, and we're going to be growing that area. We have a back to school one coming out that's really good. So if you aren't aware of our video services that we offer, please be sure to check out Choose Life Promo. We just released a donor one as well this week. It wasn't a reel, it's a video that you can use to increase your monthly giving. So reach out to us if you want more information on that too.
Yep. We have another question that came through. Has anyone else had issues with scheduling future posts through Facebook? I can only do posts immediately. It's been like this for about a week now. Rachel, that probably has to do with, you need to go into the content creation part of your Facebook page. So if you want to put up a post immediately and just hit publish, you can do that straight from like your main Facebook page, the front end of it. To schedule a post, Facebook is always changing their features. So now you have to go in through your content creator or your business manager side. And there's a section where you can, it shows you kind of like a weekly calendar. So you can choose what day you want to schedule the post for, and you'll schedule it straight through there. But if you try to put it in just from the post feature on the front end of your Facebook page, you can't schedule posts from there anymore. So that's a recent Facebook update. Let's see what other questions we have. Can you help explain Google My Business? So just a brief explanation of that. And we do have I do know that we have a number of guides on this on our website that you can download as well. Google My Business is like your free public profile for your business on Google. So when you type in, if you're like, let's say you're looking for a car mechanic and you type in car mechanics near me in Google, that profile that shows up on the side, or if you're in Maps, it'll show several different profiles kind of stacked on each other. Those listings are the Google My Business profiles for their businesses. So you can set yours up if you go to business.google.com. And they have like a step-by-step guide to how to get yours set up, but it just is a free way that Google provides to help you show up in women's near me searches on Google. But we do have a number of resources on that. So if you email us, we can get you those as well. And we kind of have a step-by-step how to set that up.
And it's so important to have it set up. We can't emphasize that enough. Is absolutely what Gen Z uses to search. So make sure that you set up your Google My Business if you haven't already.
Yeah. Laura, maybe one more question. Where do you recommend looking for new donors besides churches?
One thing that we do with our clients is we do Facebook campaigns to look for new donors. Anytime you're out in the community, make sure that you are collecting information. You can make a cute little card that has a little information on you and have them fill out their contact information. Anytime you host an event, make sure that you're collecting people's information and keeping it in a database, and that hopefully will grow. And then that's where your events come into, is you encourage your faithful donors to invite new friends to the ministry to help them to learn about you, and then you can get their contact information and hopefully they'll become a new donor as well.
And then, sorry, I did see a couple more. Our Google Ads and Google My Business have been totally shut down. We aren't able to use Google at all. Any ideas?
we've heard about this happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going against their policies, and it's legit that you've gone against their policies. Sometimes there's no explanation. We just encourage you, if you're not working with an agency already, to just fill out a ticket and be diligent in following through. I know that they ask you not to fill out multiple tickets on the same issue. So you don't want to do that, but you just want to be diligent and persistent in following through to keep asking until your things are back up. Would you have anything else, Marcy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, as you do those things, you still can work on good SEO practices for your website. So making sure your pages are optimized, getting a blog up and going if you haven't done that already. Those are still things that will impact your rankings in Google as you try to sort out your paid ads and your Google My Business listing.
And it's why SEO is extraordinarily important on the back end of your website as well. That's something that we offer. But if you have somebody that works on your website, make sure they're doing regular SEO, because it does happen. It happens to people that are absolutely following every single rule that there is, and it can just get shut down. And that's how people find you if you have good SEO. So I think we're at our time. We could answer a few more questions maybe in the email tomorrow that we send out. Just a reminder again that you will be getting this in an email in the next day or so, the recording of this, if you want to share it with anybody else. We are so grateful that you were here to join us today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We are here for you. It is our joy and to partner with you. And we're passionate about the things that you do every day, and so grateful. I wanted to remind you too that we're having our Samaritan Summit at the end of September. If you want information on that and you haven't seen anything about that yet, please reach out to us. It's a few days in Dallas dedicated to reaching the abortion-minded woman, looking at your marketing, looking at how you schedule, looking at how you answer the phone, helping with no-shows, all of that, in addition to fundraising and some leadership support as well. So we'd love to have you join us for that. Marcy, thank you for being a part of the webinar today. You are such an amazing resource and of information, and so we appreciate you. Yeah. And again, we thank all of you for what you do, and we look forward to seeing you next month on the next webinar.
Thanks, everybody.